Hello everybody, this is Sherlock Nelson from Enjoy the Gaming. As promised in my Witcher 3 review, I'm putting The Witcher 3 against The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. They're very two different RPGs, they have some similarities, they have big differences, and we're gonna take a look at them to decide which is the best RPG. Even though they are both great, we're gonna look which one is slightly superior to the other one. Okay? Let's start. The settings are relatively different. In Skyrim you have mainly mountains. Huge white mountains. You have some prairies, there is some grass here and there are some small towns, small cities. They are mostly inspired by by Viking mythology. While The Witcher 3 has very varied environments. There are huge cities like Novigrad, which is enormous. Then you have swamp areas, you have hills, you have mountains like in Skyrim. You also have islands to explore, multiple islands, and they are very different environments. Overall I prefer the ones in The Witcher because they're more varied and also they are more colorful, because Skyrim is really grey and it kinda hurts your eyes, because if it had been more colorful like Oblivion I would have enjoyed it much more compared to The Witcher 3 setting. So this point goes to The Witcher 3. There are two very different stories and in many different ways. The story of Skyrim is more like this. It's not important the objective of your mission. It's the journey that matters. And there is a really good journey. You develop your own character, you give him your personality, you improve him as you want him to be. You want to make a mage, you make a mage. You want to make a soldier, you make a soldier. An archer, you make an archer. There are multiple ways to do your things. And you are a dragonborn. You can control dragons, you have the power of dragons into you. And there are some interesting story points, but you don't play Skyrim for its story, you play Skyrim for the exploration. And the story is probably the weakest point of the game, including also some of the side missions, because there are some really great side missions, don't get me wrong, but most of them are really dull fetch quests, which really hurts the game. On the other hand, The Witcher 3 has a very deep story, also because it's based on a series of books. And this one you play as Geralt of Rivia, as in the previous Witcher games, and this time you're looking for Cirilla, your daughter, well, your stepdaughter, and it's an emotional journey that you're going to, and it has a really great ending. There are multiple choices that affect in a huge way the story, compared to the ones that make smaller changes in Skyrim. The side quests also have amazing stories, and sometimes they're actually more interesting than the main story in The Witcher 3, which is a huge props, especially in a RPG where you don't want to complete the story. A great RPG makes you want to do all the side quests compared to completing the story just in one playthrough. You want to take your time and explore the environment and complete multiple quests, and that's what the story of The Witcher 3 achieves. This point goes also to The Witcher 3. The characters, they're pretty boring in Skyrim. There are maybe 4 or 5 memorable characters, and one of them are the Whiterun guards. That's basically the only memorable character that every single person that plays Skyrim remembers, because otherwise there aren't that many. Maybe the big dragon is memorable, but other than that the characters are pretty weak. I remember more characters from Morrowind rather than Skyrim, and even in Oblivion. On the other hand, you have The Witcher 3. Geralt of Rivia, he has a personality, he's not a face that you created that doesn't really speak. He has a really interesting personality. The characters that you know, like Yennefer, Triss, they're all very interesting people because they feel like real people, they act like real people. There are also some side characters like Dandelion, Zoltan, Priscilla. There are tons of characters that you remember vividly after months of playing the game, even though it's been out for only 1 month, but still, they're more memorable, and they are more well written. Because the ones in Skyrim, most of them are pretty boring. So the point goes to The Witcher 3. The combat. Maybe thinking that I'm hating on Skyrim right now. I'm not hating, I've played tons of hours of Skyrim, but the combat is crappy as hell. They've always been crappy in the Elder Scrolls games, because the focus isn't really much on the combat as it is on completing different quests and exploring the open world. But the combat consists mainly of you strafing if you're using a melee weapon, or spamming an attack button if you're using magic. Other than that, it's pretty boring. They also added really late into the game the possibility to attack from horseback, but that works pretty damn badly as well. On the other hand, The Witcher 3. Well, it isn't as varied as Skyrim because you don't have as many magic spells or as many different weapons. It is a more deep combat system. It requires you to dodge, it requires you to counterattack, it requires you to parry, it requires you to use oils to attack certain enemies, to use a certain magic trap to then attack the enemy. While on Skyrim you can focus only on one playstyle and use it for the entire game. In The Witcher you have to become a master in all the different parts of the combat. You have to become a mage who can use a sword, or vice versa. And that makes the combat in The Witcher 3 the best combat in an RPG yet, in my honest opinion. But Skyrim loses once again. The point goes to The Witcher 3. Now this is interesting because this is a matter of taste. You either really like the ones in The Witcher, or you really like the ones in Skyrim. I like both. But Witcher has more interesting ones. Now, maybe because the game is more recent, but I remember almost every single quest. You have a quest in which you're just trying to find a girl in the woods, and you discover a really interesting and kinda creepy werewolf story. You're exploring the swamps and you find a village full of children and you're like, whoa, what's this thing? I wanna discover what's happening here. Where are the parents? Every time that you explore the environment, you find something new and different, and something that keeps you engaged during the playthrough, which is a really long playthrough. We're gonna talk about that later. On Skyrim, I remember just a handful of missions, and I've played the game multiple times, except the big quests like the Dawnguard one or the Dragonborn one. There aren't really that many memorable quests, mainly because they consist mostly of fetch quests. You have to go around, pick up an object, kill 10 monsters, then come back, give me an item, thanks, fuck you. In Witcher, you have to search the environment, you have to look for clues. Even though it's really simple to do that, you still have more engagement in what you're doing, also thanks to the story, because most of the time you keep spamming the skip button in Skyrim just to, okay, let's get to a bit of combat, come on, let's go. So this point also goes to The Witcher 3, in my opinion. But some people might also give this point to Skyrim. It's really personal. The Witcher 3 is really long. The main quest is about 40-50 hours long, and there are a lot of side quests that will keep you engaged for over 50 other hours, plus the huge open world to explore, the different monster nests to destroy, playing Gwent with other people. It's a really long game overall. On the other hand, you have Skyrim though. In the beginning of the game, you have to make a choice that hugely changes the game, so you have to play, or you want also to play it another time. There are a ton of different places to explore. There are multiple side quests, some side quests you can do multiple times because they have different outcomes. There are some places to explore which contain more side quests. There are some books that you can read that unlock side quests. While there aren't many varied activities compared to The Witcher 3, there is more content. While The Witcher 3 is really long, you don't really want to replay it all over again when you finished it as much as you want to play all over again Skyrim, because you don't create your own character, thus the story remains mostly the same. Yes, there are some big differences, some big choices to make, but in Skyrim you want to play it more and more times. So the point goes to Skyrim in this round. This is another controversial point, music, because I love the Elder Scrolls theme, from Morrowind, which is still my favorite one, but I love all of them. They're amazing, they're really powerful, and they're really iconic, so I should give the point based on this only to Skyrim. But the music in the entire game, especially when you're in combat, is not great, really. Well, on the other hand, in Witcher 3, while you're playing and you find a griffin over there, and you're like, oh crap, there's a griffin! The music kicks in, and you say, oh man, I gotta go, I gotta kill this griffin. It gets intense, you wanna destroy that griffin. That's a great point that I can give to The Witcher 3. And I don't know, I think this is a tie because The Elder Scrolls has an iconic theme song, but the music is mostly dull, even though there are some quite nice tracks, yeah. But I also find the music in The Witcher 3 to be more powerful, so it's a tie, 1 point to each game. The outcome is really simple here. The Witcher 3 wins, in my opinion, but I think there are multiple factors to take into this. The Witcher 3 is more recent, it's more advanced. Maybe the next Elder Scrolls game will surpass The Witcher. I don't know, maybe it will, maybe it won't. But they are both great games. They're both 10 out of 10 games for me. Don't get me wrong, I've played over 100 hours of Skyrim and I don't regret it. But I've also played over 100 hours of The Witcher 3 and I don't regret it. Because they are amazing, amazing RPGs, amazing Western RPGs. And like it or not, they are very different, they're also very similar. If you don't like The Witcher 3, that's absolutely fine, because you have fun playing Skyrim, and vice versa. So please, don't hate each other in the comments, tell me what you thought of my opinion, tell me your personal opinion, and I'll see you guys in the next video.